How's it going, Real Dealers? It's your man, Philip Hall. And before we begin today's podcast, I want to give a huge shout out to our peeps over at Men's Trends. Men's Trends is a new clothing line on the market that specializes in the best workout attire for your next quarantine workout or gym workout wherever you are. Make sure to go follow them on Instagram at Men's Trends and also check out their line on menstrends.com. Make sure to use our code, The Real Deal for you, to get 25% off on your next purchase. Stay fit, stay strong, and always keep it real. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hello, Real Dealers. It's your man, Philip Hall.
And Tate Brown.
Welcome to the Real Deal Bros. And yeah, I got my man Tate Brown filling in for Terrell for tonight. And yeah, man, like how have you been so far?
I've been good. Just finished up this semester, so now I gotta find some hobbies to fill in that time that I would be doing school.
Mm,
So and there's no sports, so
yeah,
definitely
that's
gonna
just,
be surfing TikTok, trying to find some captivating hobbies and all that.
yeah, that's the sad part. There's no sports, sadly. Well, NASCAR returned yesterday, so I mean, we got
That's
some
true. That's
sports.
true.
Yeah.
Happy Harvick pulled out a victory.
Hmm.
He was dominated that race too. So it's kind of like, even though we got sports, it was just, it wasn't your typical Darlington race, which was kind of a bummer.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think it would have been more impactful if the crowd was there. And
It's true.
I guess a good thing out of it, like NASCAR's return, it made like every headline on every national paper across the country. So I think that's pretty big for them, trying to get some
Yeah, I
popularity.
saw it had about 6.5 million viewers, so it had more viewers than The Last Dance. So I mean, there's still,
Mm,
and everybody's talking about The Last Dance, so there's still a big viewership for live sports.
yeah, that's true.
And I'm hoping that or I mean, I'm hoping, but if I were the MLS or MLB, I'd be trying to rush to get back and try to be the first league to get back on live TV, because that'll be a instant boost to your viewership.
Yeah, yeah, I think yeah, people or other sports league they could take some notes from NASCAR with the. And I feel like with Fox Sports they did a really good job on Sunday, trying having the drivers wear masks and like even like the pit lane reporters they wore masks and even use like an extension like
Yeah,
an extension
I
stick
saw
to
that.
from when they were interviewing the drivers. So I thought that was pretty cool. So yeah, I think yeah other sports should be taking notes from NASCAR. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's pretty good. See, yeah, I guess really we could talk about. Well, for those that don't know, me and Tate are roommates back at St. John's, and yeah, since the pandemic broke out, yeah, we kind of didn't like say our proper goodbyes. So, yeah,
yeah.
I
We
think
all
that's
were
fun.
under the impression we were going to come back in 2-3 weeks, because they were saying, "Oh, you come back like, I think it's like March 26th or something."
Yeah, they
And
said it
then
would only be 2 weeks, and sadly, well, it's been 2.5 months.
yeah, we got back, and then I remember like this first night I got back. That's when the Rudy Gobert situation went down, when he
Hmm.
got, and then at that point you thought, oh wow, this is, it's all everything's gonna be a lot different from there on out, and it was.
Yeah, it's really still strange how it's happened, and I mean, dude, like, I can't even imagine my first year of college going this way, like being
Yeah,
like living in a pandemic and having the experience of it, and just the like just the overall impact that's had on the world. But I guess really we could thank the power of Zoom for allowing us to talk with each other and still be able to
yeah,
get school done. Well, really, that's what this episode's about. I mean, it's about the fast times at Zoom University. So, yeah,
hmm,
yeah. So for those that I guess who's ever watching, you're probably just finished school. You're probably doing finals. Mostly college students, and there's probably a few high school students still finishing up class through Zoom. But yeah, like really, Zoom's been very powerful. Like these past 2.5 months when all the schools shut down and all the students had to go home, and yeah, and Zoom has become like the main source of contact for a lot of businesses, a lot of schools, a lot of companies,
Mhm.
and yeah, it's just been like their stock has reached record highs, and yeah, like they're just a huge powerhouse right now.
Yeah. I think it's going to be interesting going forward because I think a lot of businesses are going to realize that they could be doing a lot of what they do from home. I think we're going to see a big shift in hours that people work. Like I think for a lot of companies, you're going to say, okay, you come in, then you go back at lunch, and then you stay home from then on out, and then use the Zoom meetings. Situations like that. I mean, I've already seen countless articles of businesses already saying, hey, we can cut a lot of costs by having people, you know, do remote work, and so they're kind of experimenting with hours. As far as school, I think it's going to be hard to replace the the classroom, but I mean, University of Phoenix and DeVry and all those still continue to grow in popularity, and now you're seeing a lot of people pushing back school because of the high costs, and or maybe just they don't have time, like if you're working, that kind of thing. And so, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see this kind of be the. I mean, we were already kind of headed in that direction of the distance learning, and the working from home was growing in popularity, but I think this obviously is going to be the turning point, or maybe not a turning point, but a defining moment, and which direction we're going to go.
Yeah, well, I guess like when we talked the other day, we did kind of mention how like we kind of checked out like from like we've all doing all the online classes and stuff, but it's
Mm-hmm.
I mean it's been helpful, and I think yeah that is the future. But I feel like one of the cons of Zoom is going to kind of eliminate just that in office experience, like where you could go to
Yeah,
somebody's cubicle and be like, oh hey Dave, how's your day, or like oh hey Stacy,
yeah,
you can't really have that type of environment anymore because everybody is going to be in like the same bubble on Zoom, and you can't really have personal conversations with someone when there's like 30 or 20 other people that are listening in.
yeah. Because I mean, at some point, people are going to need that social interaction, and I mean, as minimal as it is during class or at work, it's still there. And now we're seeing people, with the whole social or the stay-at-home orders and all that. I mean, you're seeing people just really frustrated by not having any social interaction whatsoever. So I mean, that's where it's going to be kind of interesting as a society, as we're going to decide, what do we value more, as convenience, or uh, that social interaction. And so it's kind of, we're kind of had to kind of figure out how to balance that over the next couple of years, and it'll be interesting to watch that play out and see how people, because I think people in our generation are kind of used to being able to hang out with friends over social media, over your phone and everything. But maybe for older generations where they didn't grow up on didn't grow up on social media and that sort of thing, might be a little bit tougher for them to adjust. Um, so I mean, yeah, I think it's going to be, because I mean, as far as like social interaction, I haven't noticed. I mean, apart from like extracurricular, like at school, like when you're hanging out with your friends outside of class, but like during class, I mean, I don't really talk to people much anyway. And so, I mean, at least in college. And so, I mean, that I can't say that's been taken away, but definitely at work, or like doing the, working from home, that's definitely a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we are kind of in that era where there's not as much social interaction like face-to-face communication, and I feel like COVID-19 that's kind of like adding salt to the wound of like the
Mm-hmm.
loss of face-to-face communication, or like because I mentioned it before, like communication is an art, and when you don't practice your art, it's kind of hard to readjust to it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess Zoom does like adds some form of communication towards it, even though it's not like real. You're not like in person, and yeah, and Zoom gives you the capability to not even like display your camera, where like somebody doesn't have to show their face in front of a bunch of people. So it does still add that sense of not communication,
Yeah.
or just the lost art of communication as far as trying to compete like communicate with other people. And yeah, with Zoom, I feel like this is kind of their hmm, this. I feel like this is kind of like their high point. Like they're like they finally reached their peak because I was looking at the history of a Zoom stock from like back in February, like at the beginning of the year. Like beginning of the year, Zoom was kind of like at the bottom compared to other, you know, like voice recording communication services. Like they were at the bottom of the bottom of the table, like with Skype, FaceTime, Google Hangouts, and all those other services. But once COVID-19 broke out, that's really where they hit their, you know, this is
Yeah.
their big break. Like their stock like just grew humongously, like 10 times. I mean, their stock is higher than the seven biggest airlines in the world.
Yeah, and then you have the whole situation where they were positioned to, this is their big break, obviously. I mean, not many businesses are, I mean, obviously not many businesses are going to thrive during this, but Zoom is an exception. But then they had the huge security lapse, and it was just really a bad look for the company. And so you had competitors like WebEx coming in, and Google Hangouts has always been there, coming and taking their market share. And it's like this was Zoom's to lose. This was Zoom's big break, and I wouldn't say they fumbled it, but you saw a lot of schools and a lot of businesses moving away from using Zoom just because of the security concerns regarding data, and also you had like meetings getting crashed, which there's really nothing you can do about that because that was happening on WebEx too. But it was interesting to watch Zoom become so integral to um, and just everybody kind of having to scramble after article after article was coming out saying, hey, you should be a little bit more careful with Zoom, with their security breaches and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's been some moments or some headlines saying how there's hackers coming into Zoom. I mean, I've seen videos of those hackers coming in and it was like disrupting classroom, just disrupting work meetings, and yeah, and I feel like Zoom should have, if they knew that. Well, I don't think like anybody that works for Zoom knew that they were going to be this big. Like if they knew that they were going to hit a big point in their company's existence, they probably should have made their advancements ahead of time. But again,
Yeah.
Zoom was still at the bottom, and right now, seeing that they're at the top, it's really time for them to kind of like because the ball is in their court. Like it's time for them to make improvements. Like if I was the head of Zoom, I'd be like, hey, like we're at the biggest point in our company's history. Let's make some advancements. Let's like put out a new patch for these schools, for these companies to work with, and yeah, let's see where we
Yeah.
can take it from there.
Yeah, and Zoom's kind of an interesting kind of unicorn too, because the founder, and I want to say he's still the owner. I know he's still involved heavily with the company. Um, there's not many options, so like anybody can kind of host a meeting. Like it's not too difficult to get the hang of. Cisco WebEx is a little bit more bulky and rigid. So I mean, if especially if you want to host like a meeting on WebEx, you have to have a little bit more of a you have to be a little bit more tech savvy, I would say. So I mean, you kind of have that dynamic at play as well, where people are just like they just suck it up and like, okay, I'll use Zoom because I already know how to use it.
Yeah, I had a public speaking professor. Yeah, I tell you, like I don't think I've told you that like he used WebEx for the rest of the year, and to be honest, like I kind of hated WebEx because it was very faulty, and I don't know. I guess like like professor, he was a bit old, so I kind of assumed that he didn't really know how to use it as well as
Yeah,
somebody would have somebody using Zoom for the first time. But yeah, WebEx. I feel like Zoom could run circles around WebEx as far as like usership and just the quality of the video service. Like there is a lot of quality behind that, and
the lack thereof is it. yeah, and like WebEx doesn't the audio compression on WebEx is terrible, so it sounds like you're talking through a house phone.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
It's they're static and it's kind of like it's kind of delayed too. Like there's yeah, like, I remember like I would just be sitting in my public speaking class and I would hear my professor talk and like I could only hear every fifth word that he was saying. And
yeah,
it's like man, like I don't know, like that's I don't know if I could like handle WebEx anymore. I'm just like, why doesn't he use Zoom like all my other professors?
yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think the biggest storyline, or at least for me, the biggest storyline is how Skype. I mean, I couldn't think of the last time I've used Skype. Where when Skype first came out, I mean, I remember how revolutionary it was. It was like
Mhm.
video calling, but like this easy for free. I mean, it was groundbreaking. But now, I mean, Skype is kind of a relic of the past at this point. I mean, nobody's using Skype.
Yeah, I remember the
And
last
they're owned
time
by
I used
Microsoft.
Skype.
They got Microsoft money behind them.
Yeah, I remember the last time I used Skype. That was when my sister in college and my well, it was my sister's first year in college, and my sister's freshman year of college was back in 2011.
Yeah,
Like, so just that 9 year gap, I'm like, it's kind of strange how Skype kind of broke into the new business, and they instantly like right at the moment where their stock could have gone up, they just dropped the ball.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess if we are going to be living
I
in an era where like video calling is going to become more prevalent, I feel
right.
like these companies should make more advancements on their product.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, especially Microsoft, because I mean, they're so trusted within the business world for a variety of reasons, but they're the go-to. I mean, they're the go-to. I mean, they manufacture virtually every computer that businesses use. I mean, not many people use Apple products in the business world. So I mean, like more business, um, more marketing more to businesses. I think they would find tremendous success there. But I don't know. I mean, they just weren't prepared for the world to switch onto video calling. That's the reality of the situation. Skype kind of fell behind, and it's something to do with when Microsoft acquires up and coming companies, they usually run them into the ground for a little bit, and then they find a resurgence later on. So I think Skype is in that pit. And Microsoft's trying to merge Skype with like Microsoft Teams too.
Hmm.
It's kind of confusing for everybody, so I think everybody just doesn't bother because it's just a mess.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess what the impact of how schools are going to be operating Zoom, like you said before, like we kind of had that University of Phoenix type experience for the last 2.5 months. But I guess knowing that Zoom does have some power, do you think Zoom has the capability of like even starting its own university, like on online university?
Maybe. I mean, it'd be interesting because it's a free service, so I mean, it's going to be tough to monetize that. But so I wouldn't be surprised to start seeing them cutting deals with universities to, you know, lease more bandwidth and more data. That would make sense to me. But that'd be tough. That'd be tough. I don't know if they have the money stream to, hire a hire faculty. It'd be tough.
Well, I guess I mean with the fact that universities across the country are still closed and probably be closed for another like going to the fall. Like I know for us, like St. John's hasn't even come up with a plan of when they're gonna return.
Yeah.
And like we're like as us students, I'm pretty sure they don't expect us to do online classes for another semester.
Yeah. It's gonna be yeah, it's gonna be if schools in New York and California decide that they're gonna go online for another semester, they're really gonna get their act together because businesses are gonna go back to their businesses are gonna go back to work because there's not necessarily a massive push for universities to go back this next semester, especially in New York City and also in California.
Yeah. Well, you live in Texas. Is like any of the big schools in Texas still thinking about staying closed, or like how's that working
Only
out?
one I've seen is UT Austin, and that's just because they have students. I mean, students from all around the country and all around the world. So I mean, I think they're more concerned about students, coming in more afflicted places and spreading it there. But as far as like University of Texas San Antonio, there I don't think there's really anybody thinking that they're not going to go back this semester just because risk of transmission is low there right now.
Hmm. Like, let me ask you, like, how has San Antonio been dealing with the COVID-19? Like, how have like businesses or actually let me like rephrase the question. Like, when you came back home in March, did you see anything different during your time back home in San Antonio? Did things change?
Well, not initially. I mean, when I came back, nothing. I want to say it was mid-April, early to mid-April. And then you had the social distancing guidelines that came from the state, which is the 6 feet apart and everything. But there's not really a dependence on public transport here. I mean, nobody really takes public transport here, and it's Texas, so everything's spread out. So I mean, as far as lifestyle, nothing changed much. You just had a lot of businesses, shut down, obviously. So no barbershops, no swimming pools. So you could still go out and about and go get food, but it was all takeout. So. But yeah, you can still drive around, and we didn't have. I mean, I heard stories of people getting ticketed for driving and stuff like that. Like it wasn't.
Like, is it just because I know with a lot of the highways being open and not a lot of people out on the roads, I've heard stories about people like just speeding, like on freeways on city streets, like just like just
Yeah,
going just pedal to the floor, just going all out. I mean,
that's the best part about living in Texas is the highways have like 90 miles per hour
yeah, you
speed
guys got
limits.
some
So
you guys got some fast highways, like.
my car doesn't get above 65. I can't even keep up with the speed limit half the time.
Yeah, because I heard I think it was back in April, I think, or late March. Like there's this cross country race like called the Cannonball Run. And it's
Yeah,
like, yeah, the cross country, like where it starts in New York and it ends in LA. And I think there was a guy, because like at the time, like the New York streets, like Times Square and like just the big parts of New York, like there was nobody out on the streets. And I
mm,
think there was a guy, I think he was in the Cannonball Run. I think he was driving had like a blue, like a really nice Porsche Carrera GT. And then right, and like just a few blocks from Times Square, he crashed it. Like just,
ooh,
I mean,
jeez.
well, I think he topped out. He was topping out at 110, and yeah, he crashed into like a parked taxi, and and like I think the guys that broke the record, I think they were driving like a BMW or a Mercedes, and
Yeah,
but like the people that authoritate the Cannonball Run, they were thinking about putting an asterisk on the record since it was COVID-19 and the pandemic, and nobody in the country besides truck drivers are out on the roads. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I
I
mean,
mean,
it's a
yeah,
little bit of
it's a
cheating.
flawed it's a flawed record. It's not like Houston Astros cheating, but
How does
it's
that
like,
work?
yeah.
Like, for the Cannonball Run, do they enforce speed limits? So, like, if you start speeding down the highway, are they gonna like respect that? Or, I
No,
mean,
no, no. It's like it's an outlaw race. So you just gun it and try not to get caught, because like what like I remember I saw a picture of inside one of the competitors' cars, and they had like five police scanners on their dashboard. I was like, man, okay, well, like if they really prepare for this, I guess they just gotta go at it. And
yeah,
like they also try to make few gas station stops, because what they like. I guess it's kind of crazy how some of the competitors modify their cars. They add in like another gas tank in their car just to save up on fuel, or they
That
could
makes
just do
sense.
like a gas and go type thing where they could fuel the car while they're driving. And yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's an interesting concept how it's been like that, and like it's really been historic for like a long time. I think the first Cannonball Run was back in the 20s. Well,
Wow.
back
Okay.
in back in the day where there weren't like any interstates or any highways like in the United States.
Yeah. You,
Yeah, I
you had to
mean,
get the atlas out and get a good
right,
path.
right.
Because nowadays you just book it down I-40. So
Yeah, yeah. There's I can see why there would be people just trying to gas their cars on the freeway and know that like it's just open road all the way through. I guess in California, people have been kind of testing the virus, like just to see, like just kind of push their luck. Because I remember, like working for DoorDash, like I'm on a bike and I ride around like certain parts of Oakland where there's like where there's usually a lot of people during the week,
yeah.
and like the first month when I was back home, there weren't a lot of people going outside. Like a lot of people were still wearing masks, like staying inside. The roads were clear. But around the beginning of May, there's been a large influx of people wanting to go outside and wanting to protest against the laws of, being shelter in place. When I mean, I don't know if you heard about that that large crowd at the beaches in Orange County in LA. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, there was yeah, I mean, yeah, that made national headlines and Gavin Newsom wasn't too happy about that. So, and like
Well, I
neither
think
were people in the Bay Area either.
I think at this point, I think America as a whole has kind of decided like they still have the masks and everything, but I mean, I was looking at analytics yesterday and that sort of thing sorry, from Google Maps of people entering destinations. So they can tell like when people are on the road and stuff, and they're having like um higher public transport usage, higher. I mean, I think at this point the American people have decided like, okay, lockdown's over, which is depending on the way which way you look at the whole thing, that'll either make you mad or make you happy. But the only thing they could really do to stop people from deciding the lockdown's over is if you start arresting people, which I don't think will happen.
No, no, they're not gonna. I don't think any like politicians or any mayors or governors going to go to that extent where like if you're not wearing a mask or if you're not staying 6 feet away from each other, we're gonna put you in handcuffs. I mean, like even like I can even say in Oakland, like the police here don't even want to get close to people that are like breaking the law as far as social distancing and not wearing a mask. Like police are even trying to keep their distance because
Yeah, it's definitely a
like they don't know if like that person or that suspect has the virus, and obviously they don't want to catch it because if they catch it, that affects the whole department. I mean, I can see that 2.5 months is like really like I feel like not that many Americans have the patience to be cooped up in their houses for 2.5 months.
yeah, it's a
Uh,
lot to ask of
yeah,
a country of 350 million people.
yeah.
It's tough,
I mean, well,
especially yeah,
yeah,
especially when um I remember to get politicized pretty quickly. So now you're kind of seeing more right leaning people as kind of like the being stereotyped as the I guess anti lockdown, and then you have like more left leaning people kind of stare. At this point, the 80% of Americans that don't really about politicizing issues are like, oh come on, really, we're gonna do this now, and it's just I think that's kind of frustrating too. Is like how did the coronavirus become politicized? Like only in America would that be possible.
yeah. I mean, other countries like they've been so like up to date with just safety regulations, and even when we talked the other day, you mentioned how there's certain countries out there that have more unity where if a political leader gives an order, people will follow it without any questions asked.
Yeah, or that, or they're just kind of Sweden and um, Sweden and also in the Netherlands. they were like, we're going to try herd immunity. And then everybody's like, all right, let's roll with it. And so it's a lot easier to do it when everybody's kind of on the same page. United States is a little bit different, you know,
I mean, there's people
obviously.
that don't even want to get tested, even though they've been told countless times that if you feel the symptoms, go get tested.
Yeah, and it's just it's a disaster for sure. And I mean, not that they're necessarily escaped of blame, but it's tough to blame this on public officials completely because it's kind of a
Yeah, yeah. Sorry. I think the Wi-Fi is kind of trippy over here. Hold on. Yeah, yeah. It's no politician's fault that all this happened. Like they don't, it's not so much to shoot the messenger. It's really just them trying to lay down certain rules that that was brought in because I mean again, like nobody expected this to be that big. I mean, it was just one situation that happened in Wuhan that just transferred over to the United States and spread all around the world. And all the politicians can really do is, hey, people, there is a virus now, and we have to learn how to live with it. Yeah,
yeah,
and
because we're
that's
so
why
used
that's why
yeah, we're
like
so
I
used
don't I don't know why people are getting so like it's like wound up with like people in California, they're getting so wound up with Gavin Newsom having to close the beaches, close the campgrounds, close the national parks, and telling restaurants to not have dining seating. Like they're getting so wound up with him, with like without accepting the idea of like saying, "Hey, COVID-19 is here. Let's prepare for it the best way we can." Like that's why I don't know
yeah.
why people are protesting or trying to issue him a lawsuit. Like they're like Tesla is like Elon Musk is trying so hard to to sue Gavin Newsom because he's losing stock. Well, I looked at the market. I looked at the stock market. Tesla isn't losing any money over this. Like people are still willing to buy his cars, but again, like people aren't working right now, and Elon Musk shouldn't really be throwing a lawsuit at the state of California for because of their guidelines, knowing.
He's suing the
Yeah.
city council, I think,
Well, yeah, but
because
like because like Tesla's plant or assembly plant is in Fremont, was Alameda County.
yeah,
So yeah, Fremont's like it's just down the road from Oakland, and
he said he wants to pack up and move to Texas or Nevada, I think, were the two states that he said he was looking at
I mean, I
moving
wouldn't.
to.
I wouldn't blame him if he did. I mean, California. I mean,
It's a tough place. It's a tough place to run a business, California.
yeah, it is. I mean, it's tough if you're not a tech company just starting out, or if you're not like. I mean, like really, the only big companies that survive here are the big tycoons or big technology tycoons down in Silicon Valley.
Yeah,
A car manufacturer doesn't really had the best luck here. I mean, it was kind of like that back in the early days when the assembly line was made. I mean, General Motors and Ford, they had assemblies based around the Bay Area,
yeah,
like from the 20s to the 50s. But
yeah,
it's not like since it's not like that anymore, since a lot of cars are coming over are being imported from Japan and Europe, and even with like the big manufacturing facilities out in Michigan, it's I mean, like I would not be surprised if Elon Musk does leave California to go to Texas. I mean, to be honest, like he could be doing better in another state making cars than how he would here in California.
but yeah. I mean, I think if you put yourself in Elon Musk's shoes, a move to Texas would make sense. One, because it's a lot more business friendly, especially if you're like a car manufacturer. And two is he has the SpaceX infrastructure down in Brownsville on the border. So I mean, if it's obvious that the SpaceX project and Tesla are linked, maybe one because of Elon Musk, and two they kind of congregate them together. And Austin is an up and coming, not up and coming. It's kind of already arrived as a tech hub. I mean, you have a lot of people moving from California, from New York, moving to Austin. So I mean, if you're a company like Tesla, you kind of want to capitalize on that
Mhm.
that market of young professionals there. That if you combine Silicon, I think people like Elon Musk, their mouths water, really expensive.
Yeah, I mean, I know. I mean, I already forgot my train of thought. Oh yeah, I was gonna say there like there's actually been a lot of talk about people in California wanting to move to Texas once the pandemic is over because knowing that both New York and like both the East Coast and the West Coast are like the epicenters for coronavirus. There's been talks of even people in California moving down to Texas, and
Yeah.
I feel like it's more than that though. I feel like it's more of because I remember I was watching the Hassan Minaj Patriot Act last night with my mom,
Hmm.
and he did like his first episode like since the pandemic. He was talking about the rent strike, like for like a landlords to hold off on payments of rent because like once the pandemic is over and once landlords could lift their rent delay, the rent is going to stack up, or the price for rent is going to stack up. And knowing how
Yeah.
expensive it is to live in California, you can only imagine what that's going to be like for certain residents here.
Yeah, it's gonna be a disaster.
Yeah, it's gonna be yeah,
Well, I mean,
bad.
especially if you look at um, you have considered moving from California or New York to not only Texas but really anywhere in the southeast, purely from a health standpoint. Because I mean, if you're elderly or if you're someone that's at risk, and they've been saying there's a good chance that COVID will spike again in the fall. I mean, I'd want out. Like, I wouldn't want to live in a tight space like that. I'd want to just move somewhere where you have a little more space, and you're not going to have to worry about your local hospital getting um, hitting capacity. So I mean, from a health standpoint, if you're an older person, I mean, I could see the reason you want to move, to Texas, for example. And then just for younger people, like in California, yeah, you like you said with the rent, it's gonna. I mean, the cost of living is only gonna get worse
Mhm.
in California. I mean, you could start your own business in Texas a lot easier. And also, I just think Texas is kind of gonna be on the front for like renewable energy in the United States. You're gonna see. I mean, personally, I think just from what the market shows is you have a lot of startups in Austin, and then you have companies like SpaceX, obviously, that are investing heavily in renewable energy, and that's a really lucrative uh, lucrative industry for young people because young people have been I think of renewable energy sources, and also you have the country's first bullet train is going to be in Texas as well.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. Isn't that going from like no, they wanted to
90
make it
minutes.
go from Dallas to Houston, right?
Yeah, 90 minutes. It's gonna be great, and I mean, I think on right now it's on track to be done by the end of the decade. So
Yeah, yeah. California was supposed to have a bullet train plan.
they ran out of money.
Yeah, yeah. I think it happened when Jerry Brown was still governor. I think one because like their initial plan was to make a bullet train that would go from San Francisco to L.A. in like an hour tops, and or like hour between an hour and 3 hours tops. But yeah, I guess the state they did kind of toss that because of money, and really I think it was also like an environmental thing because if you go like that middle section on I-5 like that goes from the Bay Area down to LA, that middle section, like I've driven on that more times than I can count, and it's not really as functional as it should be. Like with just being knowing how much people drive in California, yeah, it's not. Yeah, that middle section on I-5 is not as functional for a bullet train.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like also very environmental, a lot of environmental issues and a lot of financial drawbacks from that. I don't know. I feel like it could have worked. I mean, I think even Elon Musk was behind that, trying to push for a bullet train from LA to New York. I mean, not LA. California or oh my gosh, Bay Area to LA.
yeah, he's been throwing
Yeah.
around that Hyperloop thing for years now.
Mhm.
But I mean, I'm not too familiar with Hyperloop.
Yeah, I mean,
There'd be a Hyperloop in Texas before there'd be one in California.
yeah, yeah. I remember I saw a video on why bullet trains can't make it in the United States because like if you look at other countries in the world that have bullet trains, like Germany, Japan, Russia, like France, like or even England, I mean, like those they survive because, well, even though like yeah, they probably get some of that technology from the United States and even from Asia. They survive because those like those countries, they don't have like a stable or like a traditional a rail line, like Amtrak or like or like Southern Pacific.
Well, and also you just don't have the. I mean, the average. I think the average American family owns two cars,
Yeah.
so you have a heavy dependence on cars in the United States, and then you also have a. I mean, as much as we kind of joke around about it, like the interstate system is, it's very efficient. So I mean, you combine those two factors, it's like people don't want to take the train if they can just drive themselves and listen to their own music and um, I mean, some people just find that more enjoyable. But and also a 5 hour trip for us is nothing. Like for an American, a 5 hour trip's nothing. But
Mm.
in the UK, that it's London to Glasgow is 5 6 hours. So and that's like an eternity. So I mean, they have more of an incentive to have a bullet train. Not a maybe not a bullet train, but just quick
Yeah. Yeah.
quick light
Plus,
rail.
yeah. Plus, like not that many people take trains anymore. I mean, Amtrak is kind of gone off.
Amtrak is they haven't been profitable like since the government's been backing them.
Yeah. Well, I remember back in the days when like the train was really the only. I mean, like if you think about it, before like the train came before the car did,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah.
yeah, the
That's
trains
what built
trains were like the
America.
main, like or besides horse buggies and just your horse, like trains were like the revolution towards American travel.
Yeah.
Oh
I mean, without trains, I would say California would be California and the West Coast in general would be severely underdeveloped.
mhm.
It would look like the Wild West still.
Yeah. I mean that's where the train got his name, like from the Wild West. I mean you seen those old Western movies, like there's always the bandit group or making a robbery on the train. I mean, play Red Dead
Yeah,
Redemption, like
yeah, yeah. So I
yeah,
mean, my dream would be to see a good rail network in the United States, though, just because I don't like road trips very much. I would prefer to get you know from Texas to New York on a train. That'd be kind of nice.
yeah.
Because I
I,
know because I know Amtrak is well, it's interesting because Amtrak's an interesting situation because they actually are highly profitable on their DC to New York to Boston line. Their Northeast line is
mm,
highly profitable. I mean, I think they make about $60 per passenger on it, but it's their long haul trains. Like I know their New Orleans to Los Angeles train, they lose like $15 per passenger. But the only reason that they keep those long the Senate ultimately define or allocates the funding for Amtrak, and it's a bad look for a route because it's like his or her constituents are like employed
yeah,
by those Amtrak stations. So I mean, it's tough because it's politics are all wrapped up in the funding for Amtrak. I would think it's probably going to take the private sector to step up if we're going to get bullet trains um, uh, and the wean us off of automobiles. It's going to probably be the private sector
yeah.
at least.
I remember there was a line that would go to I think there's a line that was very popular from Amtrak. It was from LA to Chicago. And actually, I think that line might still be in service because like me and my dad, we were thinking about doing that when we were doing our cross country road trip. Like just take a train to LA. I mean, take a train to from LA to Chicago, and just jump off of there. Then like rent a car in Chicago and drive it to New York. But
Yeah,
yeah, like yeah, I guess that culture of just the Amtrak and just like that long haul train ride from coast to coast, that culture kind of died off around the time when airlines started to become more popular. Because like, yeah, I
yeah,
feel like there's still that battle between airline travel and train travel and also car travel in the United States. Well, if you compare it to other countries have always relied on just like the car, but again, like with just the spike in bullet trains, like like there's even certain countries where people don't drive that many cars that often because they have such great
Yeah.
transportation, and even the governments, they don't have like a battle as far as legislation for what form of travel are people going to use.
Yeah, I mean that's the problem now is like if you want to, for example, I was thinking of taking from San Antonio to New York. It's gonna be like a 32-hour trip, and it was like $50 more than a plane ticket. So I was like, they're not really offering a better product for one, because it's gonna be slower. And I've taken Amtrak before, and it's lots of delays. And then two, it's more expensive, so it's like kind of a no-brainer to take a plane. So I mean, until they can address that, I think that's the importance of getting Amtrak to be profitable,
Hmm.
but they won't be able to if as long as they have these long haul trains.
Is there like a commuter rail in San Antonio? Because I heard that commuter rails or commuter trains are starting to get more popular. I know in the Bay Area we have a Caltran. Like Caltran can stretch from San Francisco all the way down to San Jose. Or
Yeah, they don't have any light rail or passenger.
hmm, kind of weird. Because figured I figured San Antonio would be the type of city to have those.
Because I know they give pretty good deals for park and ride around throughout the city. Like it's not like everybody's just congregated downtown, so it'd be tough to determine where do you run the lines. Like a city like Austin, I think would make a little more sense for some sort of light rail system, just because all the business is congregated in like two spots.
Hmm. Yeah. There's a lot of cities starting to move towards that because yeah, I know like commuter rails. They're popular in the Bay Area. They're popular in Seattle, popular in Chicago, like New York, and
Yeah,
yeah, I think it's that I feel like that could be the stepping stone for the bullet train to come in. But again, we have to see where that market is going as far as travel because yeah, because like those commuter trains, they could get to places that you could drive in the same amount of time and like the span of 30 minutes to 45 minutes.
country, and so people just prefer to fly for the time being.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll see a shift now because um, the government bailout for the airline and just the margins. That maybe you'll see a little bit of development on the rail end, just because it's going to be air travel is going to be a little different for the next couple of years, but you know, still, I mean,
It's one thing
doesn't
that Zoom.
change that much.
It, it's one thing that Zoom is also going to take away though for most people. They're going to
What's
take
that?
away the idea of doing business trips, like because like they're like why like they don't even have to leave their home to do a business call or like
Yeah,
because like yeah like usually like back then you would fly to another city to do like a business meeting for your company. I feel like Zoom is going to take away some of that, just that aspect of being able to go into another city and still be able to work and still be able to like enjoy leisure time and travel. Yeah, I think that market or just that idea of doing business trips is going to die off.
I mean that's where you've seen the rise of like business conventions, where it's like
Yeah, even with that, that's still going to take away the culture of business travel.
falls out of the way. They can get the kind of more minute um, business dealings done over video calling, and then the business conferences is where you get more of the networking, I guess you could say. I mean, business conventions have grown in popularity exponentially recently. So yeah, companies, it's like, why send 15 guys to go to a couple cities every year and spend all that money when you could just send four representatives to a convention twice a year. It's much cheaper, and you kind of get the same networking situation done.
Yeah, yeah. Like I feel like travel is going to, or like Zoom is going to prevent travel from being more prevalent because I was reading an article the other day about how Airbnb is hoping for a post-pandemic travel boom,
Hmm.
and like yeah, and Airbnb is just tanking right now, and
Yeah, I've heard they're hurting pretty bad.
yeah, even a lot of hostess or a lot of people that have an Airbnb or that own one, like they're wondering like, well, the bill or like the relief fund that the company's putting out is not a lot, and I still because like there are people that live off their uh, Airbnb business to pay for their own rent,
Yeah, that's
and
true.
yeah, when you're not paying for rent, you're not putting money back into health services, back into schools, local businesses, or even like property tax. Like that money is not going back in, or it's not being heavily invested
Yeah.
when people aren't paying rent, which is kind of sad. I mean, yeah, like I understand. Yeah, people do need to have a source of living, but when you're relying so much on just one aspect and not your own income, I mean, yeah, it's strange, and I feel like that's why like I'm kind of nervous about people that live off of rent, how they're going to be affected once like the rent strike or the rent or the rent delay is over, because like yeah, that's a long pile of rent that's going to be due
Yeah.
to the landlord. I mean, yeah, that's just going to be a mess. I can understand why there's a protest against that, and there should be like there should be more of a protest toward the rent strike rather than a protest toward people wanting to go to the beach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope that home ownership rates increase a lot. And yeah, like you're gonna have so many people moving into the interior of the country where you can actually afford to buy a house. That's the thing. I mean, you can't. I mean, $600,000 in Texas gets you a mansion, and then in Queens, that doesn't get you anything. Like, I mean, you might be able to find a fixer upper in Jamaica, and that's really the extent of. I mean, it's not going to get you anywhere. You're going to just be forced to rent. So, I mean, we'll see. But I hope home ownership increases just because it's a good way to build wealth for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like home ownership. Yeah, I feel like that's like the backbone of real estate in America. I mean, it's always been like
Right.
owning a home helps like invest money back into communities, like with parks, uh, like local businesses, schools, like
Well,
hospitals, like
it helps build communities because you know your neighbor is not going to move out in 2 years.
right.
And then also it's if you can afford it, which if you play your cards right, you will be able to afford one at some point, depending on where you live. I mean, it's kind of a win-win because you build wealth in the home, just by sitting on it, unless God forbid something happens in the neighborhood which decreases the land. Usually, it's a good investment, and then you get somewhere to live. So
you know,
if you
I
put if you put down a good enough down payment, you'll pay about half of what you would be paying for rent. So I mean,
I feel like if like I'm not like again, I have no knowledge of what it's like to rent out a place or own a home yet, because like I'm not at a stage like we're college students, like we're still having to give our rent money to like the landlord, which is St. John's University.
true.
um, but I would say I think the best advice, like from my knowledge of what I would tell somebody if they're trying to find a place to rent, or they're fresh out of college and they're trying to figure out, oh, what city should I work in, or oh, what place should I live in, should I get roommates or something like that. I would say start off working in a city, or working in a place that has like like a decent like decent rent, like affordable rent, like this, make sure the salary or the starting pay looks pretty good on that job, and just kind of work your way up through there. I mean, like, don't try to go big, like go to like a city like LA, or a city like New York or Chicago, or like one of these like big market cities for whatever field you're working in. Try, I would say, like, it's best to start off small, like start off in a place where like rent is going to be cheap, the starting pay is going to be pretty good, and then just work your way up through there, because just
Yeah.
starting off big, that kind of sets you back a bit, or sets you back by at least maybe 4 years, having to compensate for like paying for rent, like asking for a higher pay on your job. Because I don't know, when I look at people like that work and live in the Bay Area, I kind of see like a sense of misery in their face because they know that it's expensive to live here, and they know that
Yeah,
they don't they probably don't make enough to compensate for their cost of living, as well as their compensate or compensate for their like other expenses that they have to pay for. I feel
yeah,
like the mindset of starting small and then growing your way up, that should be instilled more into people that are coming out of college and looking for a job.
yeah, yeah. You just got to be flexible, and if you can land a good job in somewhere that's like a little bit more affordable, at least consider it because it's always tough to leave your hometown, especially if you're from New York, born and raised, or like the Bay Area.
Mm.
It's definitely got to suck to know that you grew up somewhere, but you're not entitled to a house or an apartment. Like it's you're gonna get priced out by people just moving in. So I mean, you know, it's an unfortunate reality, and it's like I would like to see it change, but for the time being, it's like you gotta get creative on how you're gonna make ends meet, and you know,
Yeah, I mean, it's always good to have
it's
a
tough.
it's always good to have another source of income. If you do choose to live in a place like LA or the Bay Area, like I mean, that's why I feel like that's why the Bay Area has always had that reputation of being one of the biggest revenue markets in the world because there's people here that have like five different sources of income
Yeah,
and still be able to pay off at least like $2,000 a month on rent.
it's definitely a city of hustlers, that's for sure.
Yeah, like Bay Area is a hustle area, and there's even people trying to hustle the hustler. Like
Yeah,
there's that mindset that goes into play when trying to just to make it here. And like it's
yeah,
of like that term how people say like in New York, like if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. I mean even though like the Bay Area, we're like nowhere near to where New York is as far as social status and popularity, but the Bay Area is starting to become a place where that mindset has to come in. If you can make it in the Bay Area, you can make it anywhere.
yeah.
Yeah,
Especially San Francisco. I couldn't imagine living in San Francisco.
like
it's
it's a nightmare.
it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous, but it's
it's a
yeah.
it's like that. It's like the hot girl in class, but with a nasty personality.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. I mean, I don't know. I guess just this Zoom thing, it's going to become part of our lives for at least another few months. I mean, again, I kind of get tired of it. Like I miss. I mean, I just feel so sad when I go to places and I can't even see a person's mouth because they have a mask on. It's
Yeah.
like because like I'm looking at them like, man, I wish I could see what you're saying, but again, I can't see what you're saying. So I can only hear it and I only see it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a lifestyle adjustment.
I
I
mean,
I have a friend that's deaf. So they've had a really hard time because they depend on lip reading.
hmm,
And so they just like they've kind of had that was their main way of, being able to understand what people are trying to communicate. And then you have the masks, they just they kind of feel like somewhat helpless, like when you're at a restaurant, that sort of thing, and you can't lip read. It's tough.
yeah, I mean, yeah, like I'm like, how do you think it's going for? Yeah, like I mean, I feel like people with those type of disabilities, I feel like they've kind of had a struggle with it because again, like when they go to places, yeah, like you mentioned, like I'm glad you brought that up because yeah, like I feel like there hasn't really been any awareness in like the deaf community or in the blind community as far as trying to distance with each other and also just trying to wear masks and try to go to places. I mean, how like I don't know, like I feel like there should be more support behind those communities.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's a hard ask to get people to learn sign language. So
Mm-hmm.
it's yeah. I mean, I don't even know what a good solution would be, to be honest. I'm not too familiar with you know that whole situation. But I just I'd heard that anecdote that with the masks, it's made it impossible to lip read.
Mm.
Just an somewhat unforeseen, difficulty for a group of people.
Yeah, I would say that that would be a gateway to more jobs, but knowing the fact that people are probably hesitant going to certain homes that that like even though like yeah I feel like that could be a job like say if you were with a blind person you could go to the store and pick up groceries for them or you could take them to walk somewhere or like to get a cup of coffee that I feel like there should be like a growth in jobs there but again with the social distancing rules there's no support behind that like I mean
Yeah.
like I feel like we do have to give some leeway to those people with those disabilities because like they have a like I mean they have a certain disability that can't really be fixed or we don't have the technology where we could fix like have a blind person gain their vision or have a deaf person gain their hearing back like that market or that technology hasn't been put into place yet but we should still be like allowing or having certain jobs to support those people even during a pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've seen some places get creative. Like I know with, elderly people being more at risk, they've been able to do the HEB, which is like the big grocery store chain in Texas. I know they do, I think they open at 7 a.m. So from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. as like seniors can come in there and shop. And then they disinfect everything. And then just that's when the normal store opens up at 9. So it gives the seniors time to come in and get their shopping done and everything. And the risk of transmission's a lot lower. So yeah, it's kind of been cool to see some of the creative creative ways that companies have been coming up with.
Yeah, I know. What the heck happened there? Oh, wait a minute. Hold on.
There we go.
Yeah, you removed it. Yeah, what the heck happened there?
I don't know. It said the host ended the meeting, and I was like, okay.
I didn't press anything.
It's the Wi-Fi just bugging.
Yeah. Well,
everybody's streaming Netflix right now from home.
Yeah, it is that time. Like it's getting close to 9 o'clock over here in the Bay Area. But yeah, I was saying like I would go to Trader Joe's to do some grocery shopping with my mom, and Trader Joe's like they've been setting the bar as far as cleanliness in the workplace. Like what they do, they'll have people line up outside, being 6 feet away from each other, and when you get close enough to the door, there's a person out front with a huge bottle of hand sanitizer, and they're like squirting hand sanitizer in the bottle, and they're also spraying it on the shopping carts when you come
Yeah.
in, and also when you come out of the store. And I was thinking, yeah, like yeah, I think it's pretty cool.
Nice.
There's business like that, trying to set the bar. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I feel like we're slowly coming back into going back to normal, even
That's
though
what it feels like,
yeah,
especially with sports coming back.
yeah, yeah. It was actually
I got
announced. It
the
was announced today that in California, like Gavin Newsom said, that sports could possibly come back the first week of June, just with no fans at the event. So yeah, I'm hoping
yeah,
that
you had the German Bundesliga coming back. It was nice waking up and having scores to check.
yeah, I'm hoping the A's could come back soon. So
Yeah, that'd be
yeah,
nice. I need some baseball.
yeah, need some baseball. Like I have my NASCAR, so yeah, like at least I have that. But I want some baseball too.
Want some NBA playoffs too? That'd be nice.
Yeah, 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 man. Yeah, well, well, just in case Zoom tries to cut us off again, like thanks a lot, Zoom. But yeah, I think we're gonna wrap it up here. Yeah, like thanks, man. Yeah, thanks for coming on. And I
No
like
problem. I had a
yeah,
good time.
yeah, that's great. Yeah, we should do it again. But yeah,
Sure.
hopefully, yeah, Terrell he could come back pretty soon. So, yeah, but yeah, well, yeah, at least like, hey, to me, man, you're an honorary real deal bro, dude. So like,
I appreciate it.
yeah, so yeah,
It's an honor.
that's a big thank you, man. And yeah, hopefully, we could, hopefully, like when we're able to go back to St. John's, yeah, we could link up again, and
Yeah,
just
let's do it.
hang out, like do bro stuff.
Let's
So
do it.
yeah, but yeah. Anyway, I've been Philip Hall, and I have my guy Tate Brown with me on. Yeah, thank you again so much for tuning in to the Real Dude Bros podcast, episode 2. And as always, make sure to keep it real.